Welcome to News with a View, hosted by me, John A. Costa. This is a conservative-leaning podcast where I take facts in from both sides, the Democrat side, the Republican side. If it makes common sense, I'm going to go with it. If it doesn't, I'm going to let you know that too. I'm a conservative, Republican, not MAGA, constitutionalist. I believe in the Constitution. I believe in the Supreme Court. I believe in our Senate. I believe in our Congress. But I also believe in the voice of the people. But the people lately are violent, not reasonable, and the fact of the matter is that we are divided. The idea of a common ground, no. It's now really on both sides, our way or no way. We got to get past that, folks. But we're not going to give up the Senate. We're not going to do away with the Senate. We're not going to do away with the Supreme Court like the Democrats are screaming about doing. That's not going to happen, and that's not going to help the Democrats. The dilemma that President Trump is dealing with in Iran, and that was going to be the show today. This is episode 84. Today is August 3rd, 2026. The dilemma that the president is facing with Iran is a hostile Democratic Congress and Senate that hate Trump so much that they don't care what happens to America. And you could have your beliefs on, why now with Iran? Why did we go in? Why did we side with Israel? Those are valid questions, and you can have them. But we know Iran has been a global threat to democracy. You can't deny that. They're funding terrorism at a rate never seen before, with unlimited cash into these in conflicting nations. Lebanon, the Gaza, which was Egypt, but we've seen this. Africa, all over. Yemen. We have seen this. We have seen the influence of Iran, and it was not to bring peace to the world. It was to wipe out Israel. To wipe out Israel. And the Democrats in the government today, in Congress and the Senate, see no problem with that. There's no dealing with Iran. Said that from the beginning of my shows. Iran is a nation that does its own thing. And there's a price to pay for that. You can see that dealing with Iran and the hardliners there was like dealing with the hardliners here. And I say that with Trump. Trump is my way or the highway. But in the case of dealing with Iran, in the case of dealing with North Korea and hostile nations, I don't consider Russia a hostile nation. I do not consider China a hostile nation. They are adversaries. And they need to be looked at and watched and examined just like they do to us. I get that. But in Iran, it was a whole different ball game going on there. The president going in, and I've said this before, wiping out the top leadership. Very dangerous thing to do because you don't know who you deal with next. And that top dealership were loyalists. They were standing with Iran and, moving forward with them. But the difference was with that group, they weren't fanatical. They believed, and lower down the ladder is where you get your fanatical people. Those lower ranking members believe what these people are telling them and are radicalized and become fanatics. So what happens when you wipe out that top echelon, the next people moving up might not be reasonable. They might have, the people that were there, yeah, we say this, and then behind closed doors, we'll make a deal. Now you are stretching down into the fanatical realm and putting these people into high positions who have fanatical ideas. They're not going to be dealable. We saw that happen in Germany. We saw that happen in Japan. We've seen this pattern before. And if you cut too deep into that governmental branch, the ones that are going to be moving up, the only ones they have left to go to are the fanatics. The fanatics. And this is a major, major problem for the Trump administration. Because even our allies, even our China and Pakistan, they might not know these people well enough to cut deals. And what do? You got to kill them all. Now, we've been going after the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, but not the Iranian Standing Army. A little bit different. We decimated their navy, and we probably have gone after their army, and are going after the Revolutionary Guards. But in the end, your plan has to be there's got to be some type of government there. And unless the people overthrow their government, and that's not going to happen in Iran. You wish it would. But they're going out with protest signs, and the Iranian fanatics are coming at them with guns and bayonets. Yeah. You'd have to have a lot of fanatics on the other team to overcome that. And you're not, because these are reasonable people who go, I want to be able to wear a shirt outside. I want to be able to wear a skirt. I want to be able to wear my hair. Those are reasonable people. The people that you're dealing with are not reasonable people in their government. And this is causing a problem. And the other problem, as I said again, is you have people that are not going to bend. And Trump is finding that, you're dealing with people much like yourself. You want that 51%. You don't want to be the 49% guy. And Iran has a lot of potential. They have a lot of money. And honestly, the only way any type of winning, any type of thing that you could possibly do is boots on the ground. You're going to have to put boots on the ground. You're going to have to help these people. You're going to have to secure certain parts of the nation. And I don't think we got the stomach for it. I honestly don't. I don't think we have the stomach for it. We've seen it backfire. We've seen it where we lose our commitment. And they can be very resolved in their position because they just got to wait 4 years. Now it's been 2 years. And they could hope for a government that steps in there that says, "Yeah, we're out of there. You're going to promise not to make a bomb, and you're going to do all this." And Iran can never be trusted. You can't trust them. And I said you couldn't trust. You can't trust a lot of those nations over there because it's in their mindset to be deceitful to the West. And if you look through their history, they got good reason to be very, very leery of the West. Just have to remember the history, folks. And I say this about China, too. You look at China and why China wants to be so strong and bold and out there. It's because you look at their history. Where the British came in and just decimated them. The Japanese came in, decimated them. The Chiang Kai-shek in the fighting, the civil war that was going on. And you see a China that says, "Hey, yeah, we remember." And that's in their mindset. That's in their DNA. That, hey, whenever we dealt with these people, we never got the good end of the stick. So, and that's true of the Middle East. They never got the good end of the stick. And you have Saudi Arabia now, you have Kuwait, you have Dubai, you have these nations there, that United Arab Emirates, where there are coming up and joining the rest of the world. But that's a very small minority in those countries. And in Saudi Arabia, it's a kingdom, and in a lot of these other places, they're kingdoms. They might be friendly towards us, but they're kingdoms. They're not democracies, and they're not what we would call a democracy. Our idea of a democracy is basically unknown to the rest of the world. Not even the Romans had what we had, and what we have. And we possibly might not have it, what's going on. But if the Democrats would get behind the president and Iran would realize that we cannot win this battle, but if we can work with them and stuff, we might win the war, but to some type of favorable terms for them, where they know they can't conquer and cut. And listen, the Republicans did that with Jimmy Carter. This goes on and on and on and on. One side. But in this case, this is real costly to America and our allies who were asking to make sacrifices too, who go, this ain't our war. We had no beef with them. Where in reality, they all had a beef with them, but you know, we'd let Israel do the dirty work. They took our money, dance, monkey, dance. Now it's my turn to tell you what you have to do for that money. And it happens. That's politics, folks, on a global level. And you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like it. But that's the truth. And I said before in this, I will only present facts. I will express my opinion, Bob in New York, but everything I just spoke to you about is facts. And you can have people say, well, Trump should have told us this and Trump should have told us that. That's a fact. Not going to say that, that could not have been the case. But we know what we're dealing with Iran. We know what we're dealing with Pakistan. We know what we're dealing with in Turkey. We even know what we're dealing with Saudi Arabia and all of the Middle East. But see, their regimes don't change. We go through a revolution every 4 years. And 2 to 6 years in certain cases. We go through a revolution. And they can wait it out. That's a fact, folks. So we have to be real careful in what we do. You have the Democrats now electing for primaries, and putting forth socialists and communists under the tent of the Democrats. How the Democrats could do this is, you even have crazy Carvel, who I dislike on so many different levels, who says, yeah, guys, that's wrong. That's not what we're about. And you can have your leftist Democrats and your progressive Democrats and your left-leaning Democrats. They're there. But how many moderate and ultra-Democrats do you think are going to sign up for a Harris again or a Newsom or a Beto O'Rourke or a Stacey Abrams? You need money to get elected. The coffers are real dry at the DNC because the powers that be inside the Democratic National Committee is just morally bankrupt. You had Schumer, Pelosi, just outright lie. And I get it. Politicians lie. Wow, Republicans never lied? Really? It happens. But you had Democrats on such a grand scale hoodwink their own people, lie to their own people. It's all right you lie to a Republican if you're a Democrat, or if you're Republican, you lie to a Democrat. Democrats lie to Republicans, Republicans lie to Democrats. That's the way it happens. But when you have Democrats that actually worked against their own people, their own supporters, and didn't care, I don't care. Yeah, that's going to come back to hurt you fellas. and it's going to hurt you this November. If you think, honestly, if there's anyone out there that thinks that the Democrats are going to retake any of the houses, it might get closer, but not going to happen. You could have, if you got behind the president and were able to take credit to steer him. And why should we steer anyone when we could put people up there that know what to do? They don't need to be steered. You missed such an opportunity, Democrats, over your hatred of the man Trump. You just couldn't get over that you lost. And I still say you stole 2020. 30 million votes just don't vanish when you need them, right? And I think America recognizes that. I think there's people going, yeah, no, they wouldn't do it. And they get in the voting booth and they're going, yeah, this just can't be right. The math don't work. So I think that this November will be the real start of the civil war inside the Democrats. Right now they're fighting. Schumer's trying to hold it together. Jeffries so far over his head. They should just toss him out of there and pick someone else. Schumer, I mean, there's a good shot, good chance that after November he's gone too. And they have some radicals that they want sitting there. I mean, to make Pelosi and Jeffries look like, angels. So, and you're not hearing too much. You're not hearing too much from many Democrats. They're letting Fetterman kind of lay the groundwork. Because there's enough Republicans in Pennsylvania that like Fetterman. And a lot of mainstream Democrats that like him. But I think that the Democrats as a whole, they're in big trouble. They're in big trouble. And if by chance the Republicans grab more seats, the steamroller into 2028 will be too hard for you to stop. And at really 2028, if you guys can't secure positions and which I don't think you will be able to, regardless of where the economy goes. And I mean, I drove from South Carolina. Well, I've driven from Florida to New York, and the amount of building that's going on. The economy is good. It might not be good for everyone and every segment of the economy. But that economy, if you're in construction, man, you're working. And if you're not working, it's because you don't want to work. It is by leaps and bounds. And if you don't have a marketable skill, if you took out a school loan because you wanted to do African dance studies and how it relates to the weather as your major, Waffle House is hiring. So, and that's the truth. You have to have a marketable, a skill that someone wants, a trade. they say, well, AI won't take the replace of a plumber. Well, you know what? With robotics and some of the stuff that I'm seeing, not so certain about that. Can you imagine having robots that can work 24/7? Or how about people that buy robots? I buy 5 robots and program them to do plumbing. And they can walk, and they can talk, and they can drive, and then we have drivable cars. And they go there and look at it and go, oh, that's a T118 fitting, and go out there and get the T118, and boom, 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 does it, goes to the next job. No overtime, no benefits, no nothing. I own 5 robots that can stack shelves, that can greet people. That's the scary part, and that's not AI. That's not AI. AI is a really such a broad term. All AI is a super database that the program can go in and take from. But if it's not in that database, that AI is not figuring it out and going, well, you know what? If I took A and B and C and D and extrapolated, and they can't do that. It's not there yet. I don't know if it will ever be there in that type of context. But robotics using AI, robotics, we're limited in what we can do functionality. And if you see these robots that can, twist every which way, yeah, see, that's pretty scary. Because they could do the job 20 times more efficiently than we could. And if you have a company go out and get robots that can do that and work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Now, how are people going to pay for these things? How is this going to happen? How is this going to work in a new society? And that's where there's concerns, and you could hear Bernie Sanders say that AI, great. Where do I fit in? How is the guy down the street going to fit in? Valid question. And I said, I deal with reality. I deal with facts. Bernie Sanders has brought up some questions that honestly need answers. We might not have the answers. I don't know. Don't know. Didn't know how the light bulb, Edison didn't know how the light bulb was going to turn out. Progress, baby. Progress. You stifle progress. People that have stifled progress, you want to be the Amish, all right. Still don't understand why at a certain point, and that was it. That's as good as it gets. Don't understand it. Not saying it's wrong. I just don't understand it. So, all right. This has been 30 minutes approximately. I had a lot of issues today with doing things. And like I said, I've been away for close to 10 days, 11 days. Getting back into it, I promise. We're doing some new openers, and the thing is, except for what's going on in South Carolina, my home state, with Lindsey Graham's, the late Lindsey Graham's open seat, and come November, I will touch on that for about 5 minutes here. I think the president made a mistake by saying that the Graham's sister could, Darlene Graham, could run for that seat, even though he can't say, no, you can't run for that seat. I understand that. He's like, I have no problem if she wants to run for that seat. Now, my issue with all this is I don't know Darlene Graham. I don't know what she believes in. I don't know what her value systems are. I'm sure she's a very nice person. But, what is she bringing to the table other than a rubber stamp for President Trump? And I've said the problem with rubber stamps is rubber stamps get you in trouble. Not always a good thing to have. Because eventually someone's going to question you and ask you questions. Eventually you'll have to answer for your deeds. All right? I know Ralph Norman. I know Russell Fry. And I can understand both of these people vying for that seat come this August, I think August 11th or August 12th is the primary for that open seat. My problem with Ralph Norman is his age. We don't need another 80-year-old in the Senate. I'm sorry, we just don't. The guy is uber qualified for the job. Russell Fry, younger, certainly viable and can do that job. He served. No problem with Russell Fry. As a matter of fact, I would support Russell Fry. Who's going to fill his seat? Not that I think a Democrat could do it, but again, now we're dealing with a lot of unknowns, and of course, no one knew that Lindsey Graham was, going to pass, or he was sick. It isn't like a Mitch McConnell or some of these other people that are, so old, something's wrong and something's going to happen to them. And you start making plans. Every country, even Iran, has a contingency plan on how they're going to handle it when this guy is no longer here. But in the case of us here, I'd like to know a lot more. I know about, like I said, Ralph Norman and Russell Fry. They're open books, uber supporters of the president and the administration. Both can do the job, but again, Ralph Norman's age certainly is a factor that has to be looked at. Pam Everett, these people are gone. Some of these other people, the old governor of Sanford, who, no, bye. Thank you. You tried, you lost. Johnny, tell them what they've won and send them off on their way. We don't need that. We don't need that. We need people that have answers. that will answer a question and be honest. That's what we need. So I like Russell Fry, and I said if Russell Fry wants to do this, I just want to hear from Russell. Who do you pick as your successor? Who do you feel comfortable with? And let's get to know that person while we're getting to know you up until November again, because they're congressmen from districts. Someone in upstate South Carolina might know who Russell Fry is, but he's not well known there. Now you're going to be a senator. You know, we haven't heard from Scott. We haven't heard from these people. I want to hear from these people. This election, to me, coming up in November, it is as vital as 2024 was. I see in the papers all the time, and on papers in the media, show my age, where Trump's numbers are way down. It doesn't matter what Trump's numbers are. He's president. He's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. Now, the Republican as a whole might have to worry about that, but I think if you take a look at the president's going into contested areas and winning for their guy, he's got a pretty good track record. So I'm not worried about that. I mean, 2024 was a watershed moment. That was, we either lived or we died as a nation, and we chose life. And you don't have to agree with that, Bob in New York. But, we're all still here. When Barack Obama was elected president, that was it. At the end, oh my God, we're going to be gone. And we're all here and wealthier. So, some of us. Those that could, did. Those that didn't know how, did not. Who's to blame for that? Who's to blame for not going to school? Who's to blame for beating up your teachers? Who's to blame for, no family values? And there's plenty, I won't go to the point of saying, it's all, no. That goes across the spectrum, folks. Education. Staying in school. And, I don't, hey, you want to live the hip-hop life, man? You want that? I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to be living in a hut. And the American people are saying enough of this. We're not paying anymore. Either you get on board or you just stay where you are, and that's it. That's it. I'm sorry you were slaves. I had nothing to do with that. All I know is in 1865, that all ended. I wasn't here. And neither were you. So let's stop the victim, stop the crying. And you can remember it. I have no problem with you remembering it. But stop playing the victim card. And take responsibility for yourself now. And honestly, my next step would be to anyone that wants to exit this country and never to come back. Here's the airline ticket. Here's $10,000 per person. You got 6 people. 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. Off you go. You and them and their offsprings or anything else can never come back. Never come back. And thank you, but you're not coming back. Let me see who this is. This is so I have no problem. You want to go back to Africa? You want to go back to Russia? You want to go back to wherever you want to go to? Here you go. Here's an airline ticket. Here's cash. Out you go. Because if you don't want to change the system, see, I don't believe in love it or leave it. Because you forgot the third option is change it. But if you don't want to do that, if you want to do that through means that is not provided for inside the Constitution, yeah, time for you to leave. You know, and just like anyone that was in a house that you have not guests, but people that are not obeying the rules and doing everything, there's the front door. And out you go. Maybe the back door or second floor window. But either way, you're going. All right, everyone, thank you. Again, please give to a charity of your choice. Just make sure it's a real charity. Don't become a victim thinking you're trying to help victims. If you're not interested in that, please think about giving to a food bank. Food banks need a lot of help, and they help a lot of people. Say a prayer. Prayer does work, regardless of what a Democrat might tell you. Please, like, comment more than anything, and subscribe. I need subscribers. I haven't been pushing it lately because I just haven't been doing this as much as I wanted to. But I've been sick. Now I'm on the mend. I don't know. I do have commitments that I have to do, and I will be away again. I'm going to try to take it on the road if I can, but it could be difficult. And the news has not been earth-shattering, of late. With the houses all away and vacations, and it's not fighting time. So it's been a little slower. All right, with that, I want to say thank you to everyone. Be safe, be well, and everyone take care. And I'll be back, hopefully, tomorrow night as I fade to